Guys, Jesus, I can't believe how long it's been. Hello, welcome. Thank you so much for listening again after this absence. Not that I'm sure anyone has been crying over the absence, though. If you have been, please do let me know. I really thrive off things like that. But I'm sorry. I'm sorry that it's been so long. I'll be honest, I just haven't actually been feeling very well. Have not felt very well for a while. I've had issues with my nose for ages, like literally since I was a kid. And basically, the doctor says there's nothing he can do about it until I see an ear, nose and throat specialist. And I can't see one of them for 53 weeks. I think that's the current waiting list in my area. So I just have to put up with chronic fatigue, sore throat, headaches, blocked nose, blocked ears until then. Yay! Love to hear it. However, look, I am feeling a hell of a lot better than I was. Oh my God. For the first month, it was like I just had a really bad flu, which is why I went to the GP, because I was like, what the hell, man? Why am I still feeling so ill? Anyway, so boring. Good Lord, sorry. I'm already like offloading health problems this early on. Anyway, thank you. Hello. I hope you've had a fucking gorgeous week. I promise there's a lot of really good things to celebrate in this podcast episode. And I guess let's say this is episode 1 of season 2. I know that the last season we left it on 9 episodes, which is so frustrating. And being totally honest, I did record an episode 10 and the audio didn't bloody work. And I was like, do you know what? I'm not recording it again. And then I got ill. So it's really horrible to leave it on 9, but who the fuck actually cares? So as you can see, it's just me. I'm back in almost the original setup to episode 1. And it's going to be like this for the rest of, well, until I change my mind again. Essentially, I absolutely fucking loved having my friends come and talk to me about their stories. And actually, for once, just have that chance to be like, tell me about your trauma. Obviously, as women especially, we dip into trauma and stuff, you know, in our stories all the time. But there is very rarely an opportunity where there are no distractions and you can just be like, tell me your deepest, darkest woes. Not in the case of everyone. I mean, Phoebe didn't tell me her deepest, darkest woes. We just had a wonderful chat about the magic of being a human. But anyway, I'm rambling. I loved it. However, kind of aligning myself with other people's schedules and then editing 3 camera angles instead of 2. I know that like just having 1 extra camera angle shouldn't make too much of a difference, but it really fucking does. It would like double my editing time. So just things like that. It was just too much for me to feasibly do. So this is going to be way more low key. I'm just going to essentially treat this almost like a therapy session, like the things I tell my therapist now, my kind of weekly check-ins of like, this happened and this happened. This is how I feel about this. This came to light. It's just going to be that. And I really hope that's okay. That it's just a little old me again. But no, I'm looking forward to this. Like, I've missed having this platform and I've kept thinking of things that I really want to talk about and bring up. And so I'm glad that I can now actually just spout shite at you again. Where do I begin? It's so strange. It's like, it's only been, I guess, a month and a half since I last recorded an episode, but I genuinely feel like a different person. Like, the acceleration of growth for me at the moment is, I think, quite insane. I was even looking back in my journal the other day, today, and I was rereading diary entries and I was like, God, that doesn't even sound like me. Like the things that I was contemplating and the feelings that I was having, it just, I don't know, it's really strange. And I definitely at this time feel like I'm torn in between 2 lives. Like mentally, I feel like I'm in the next stage of my life, you know, where I'm doing the things that I want to do for work. You know, I've quit my job, I'm working for myself, I'm doing these cool projects and meeting these cool people, having more money, good Lord. Like mentally, I feel like I'm there. I'm like, yeah, I'm ready for that bit now. But I'm still I'm kind of, my old life, aka my current life, is really clinging on, and I've just sometimes in life you really have to fucking kick your old self away and be like, babe, we're shedding this skin, we're moving on. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I just feel like change is essential, and the more I resist it, the just harder it's going to be. So I'm like spending a lot of time thinking, okay, how can I make these changes? How can I build a life that works for me? And there's lots of ways I can do that. But I have to be quite strategic about it now, because I'll be honest, financial worries are really getting quite intense for me. When I took on this flat a year and a year and a half ago, I took it on knowing that I could not afford this flat if I didn't make more money quickly, right? I kind of thought, well, I'll move in. I've got enough savings that will kind of tide me over for a year, maybe a little bit more. And at that point, I need to be earning more money to be able to afford this place. Spoiler alert, have not made more money, have not had a pay rise in that time. And my finances are, like I flipping predicted, being hit. So I need to do something quite drastic quickly, because I can't lose my home. In a way, I think maybe like this motivation of like, either you fucking push now and get shit done and build a life where you actually earn enough money to like be comfortable on. I think that kind of motivation is maybe helpful. It's stressful. I don't feel great about it. I mean, being so like openly honest, I am really struggling to pay rent this month. Well, I physically can't pay rent this month. But I luckily have a 0% overdraft, which I can dip into, and I've taken out a credit card. Like, look, I also don't want to be like a dick about this. I have just gone to Barcelona for a music festival. And so, you know, it's not like, oh, woe is me, I'm living on the poverty line. Like, you know, no, it's not that. It's just increasingly I can't afford a decent way of life. Does that make sense? Like, I can't afford to go out and also pay my rent. And that's where it's at. And I'll be honest, if I was in the situation when I booked Barcelona, I wouldn't have booked Barcelona, because I would have been like, I cannot afford this. But Barcelona was booked, obviously, like a year ago. Anyway, finances, money, God, it's so stressful, isn't it? Something that I think is so important in those moments where you know that you need to build a new life for yourself is reflecting on what is the consistencies in every previous version of yourself. And so much of that good, positive, gorgeous stuff gets buried, you know, through, I don't know, just life fucking buries parts of you, right? Unless you cling on to them. And so I'm sort of going back and retracing my steps and like, okay, what has made me consistently happy? And for me, that is people. I love connecting with people and finding out about them. It's why I went really into the media in the first place. I was like, what is the best way that I can meet as many different people and have as many different adventures as possible? Yes, the media, because you get paid to be nosy. So I'm going to start making content where I'm really connecting with people. And I'm going to just try and make a friend every single day, essentially. I do it anyway. I swear to God, I can be on the tube and I'll make friends with someone. I can be in a queue and make friends with someone. I can be in the smoking area and I'll make friends with someone. And some of these people, I've either gone on to date or they are still my friends now. I actually was hanging out with a bloke that I met at 4 a.m. In a pub. God, like months ago now. I met him this week. and we went for pizza. And, you know, since meeting randomly, we have just hung out and gone to gigs together, comedy shows, dinner. And so I just suppose let's just do something with that. Like, I'm good at that. The older I get, the more I realise that things that come naturally to you are the things that you should pursue. And I know that sounds so ridiculously simple, but it's taken me a really long time to literally apply that. I actually tried to film my first episode today. Didn't go well because I was trying to make it too contrived. I think there's, especially with TikTok and Instagram formats, there's just such a fine balance between making content but not forcing content. Does that make sense? Like, you have to go out with the intention to create moments, but you can't force these moments. And I think what I tried to do today was to force a moment, and I'm just like, no, this isn't what we do. I don't make friends this way. I make friends because I just chat to people, and if we have a, you know, good rapport, then I'm quite open and early with being like, I like you, should we hang out? And I'm just going to do that. But film that and kind of capture how important and also how easy it is to actually connect with other people if you just put yourself out there a little bit. Anyway, so this is happening, and I really hope to share kind of the progress of that with you. What else can we talk about? God, there is so much, but I'm aware that time is ticking on. Oh my God, guys, I also really need to tell you about something that just made my entire week. I interviewed Fern Cotton. Yes, the flipping icon, incredible, gorgeous human, Fern Cotton. She is the best. I mean, like, you know, don't meet your idols. And I have had that experience with some of the celebrities I've met. Good Lord. However, with her, absolutely stunning, gorgeous, actually more kind and just, I can't say it enough, gorgeous than I even thought. So it was incredible. I interviewed her for my work at Secret London, and the interview went really well. To give you some context, when I was growing up, I watched Fern Cotton on the TV, and she was doing the most incredible things. The show that stuck out in my mind, which I actually spoke to her about, was a show she did with Reggie Yates, where they went around America and just did the silliest side quests, essentially. And I remember watching this as like a 10-year-old, and, you know, shit had already kicked off at her in my home life, and everything was awful. And I would watch this incredible, funny, witty, beautiful woman live the most incredible life, and it became a form of escape for me. And I think more than anyone else, I can put Fern Cotton as the reason and the influence that I had to follow a career in media. And so to meet her was kind of full circle. It was fucking mad. I mean, I have to stop and think. I'm imagining 10-year-old me right now. And she sat next to me, and I tell her, you know, that really fucking cool girl on the TV, you're going to interview her. You're going to ask her questions. 10-year-old me would just be like, no fucking way. And I said to Fern, sorry, I'm so bunged up. It's this fucking sinitis. I said to Fern, how do you deal with aging? Especially when you're in the public eye, and women particularly are judged so fucking harshly just for the act of aging. And she was like, do you know what? Out of everything I get anxious about, getting older is not one of them. And I was looking at her and I was like, babe, you're 43. You are more beautiful than ever. Like, and beauty is your personality. Beauty is your happiness. Beauty is your health. And it just really changed the way that I see aging, because I truly believe I'm consistently getting like better looking. And I think that's, again, down to confidence, knowing yourself, happiness, etc. I felt fucking gorgeous after that interview. So props to Fern Cotton. And I'm manifesting this right now. I will interview Fern again for my own platform next time. Or we'll make some kind of content together, or we'll work together in some capacity. Or, I mean, fucking hell, the absolute dream, she'll interview me on Happy Place podcast. Fucking hell, universe, if you can sort me that one out, we're golden. Anyway, my fangirling phone cotton is over. What else? Dating, I guess, is a good one, because when I was last recording podcast episodes, I was still actively dating, at points, multiple people at the same time. Not in a gross way, God, sorry. But like, you know, just getting to know people in a very casual way at the same time. I think that's fine. Baby, what are you doing? My dog has just walked into the lounge. He's actually so good. Bearing in mind how big he is. Hi, darling. This is Frank, everyone. He's tiptoed around the equipment like an obstacle course. And honestly, this dog could have knocked over any of that. He hasn't. God bless him. Actually, while Frank is here, I do want to talk about Frank, because I really want to be open with dog ownership when you're single and aren't made of money. Let's let him drink first. We will get back to dating very quickly, but I do want to just say something on Frank, because my attitudes with Frank have really changed in the last few weeks. Now, I'm going to be so real to you. I would not recommend anybody in their 20s get a dog. Look, if we're being so honest, I wouldn't recommend bloody marriage in your 20s. I feel like your 20s, like, you are figuring shit out. And to get yourself a responsibility as big as a dog, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, especially, like I said, you know, I got this dog when I was 25, and I was so young, and I thought I'd be with my boyfriend forever and ever, and then realised I didn't actually like him. So having a dog as an adult, and I was going to say a young adult, but I feel like people maybe wouldn't agree with me that I'm a young adult. But anyway, having a dog as an adult is really, really difficult, because so much of your life is restricted by this dog. And so much of your life is actually put on hold. I can't go out spontaneously in the same way that I could before. Holidays are really difficult, because obviously I actually can't afford someone to look after him, so I have to time it in with my mum, who very, very kindly looks after him for me. But, you know, there's so much that he holds me back on. And even as simple as I'm trying to do work at home, and I've actually wonderfully got an ADHD hyperfocus, and he is just constantly begging for my attention, and I shut him out, and then he wants my attention. You know what I mean? And even just waking up in the morning and knowing that immediately I've got to change this dog's water. I'm not complaining. I'm just really stressing that having a dog, especially by yourself, and when you don't have the money to have, you know, to be able to pay for someone to help you with him, it's so intense. And I went through a period of actually finding Frank, I felt quite resentful of him, and I did kind of bare minimum, like what I needed to do as a dog owner. I'd walk him in the morning, I'd give him cuddles, I'd give him his water, I'd give him his food. I took no pleasure out of this dog anymore. I'm going to be so honest with you, because I don't hear people talking about this. I think especially when you are struggling personally to keep afloat, having a dog, it's like sometimes when you've got like 5-10% in the tank, that has to go on him. You've got nothing fucking left for you. And you know, my flat would get dirty because I had no fucking energy to tidy the flat, and he would make it more dirty because he's a dog and that's what he does. And the stress that, you know, he was giving me, even though he is an easy dog, he's a really easy dog. Like, he's lazy, you know, he sleeps a lot. But my mum had him for a couple of weeks. I went away and I came back, and I've just found this, I've kind of, I don't know, found him again. Does that make sense? I'm like, I was just going through it. And I couldn't get out of my head that he was a distraction from, you know, my ambition and my potential and all of that. And that, I'm sorry for that little ad lib or that, little sidetrack there, but I just think it's really important to actually like talk about the effect that dogs, even though you love them to bits, like the effect that they have on you and your health, and your feelings towards dogs sometimes do change. I never hear people talking about that, but I have. Sorry if you think that I'm a horrible person for that, but that is how I feel. Moving on back to dating. Dating. I was dating last time we spoke, and I'll be honest, I do think the standard of men is just, I mean, I think women are all around the world are waking up and realizing that men are just not on par with women. They're not, right? And I think in order to find a man that would be on par with my very high standards now, I think would be really quite difficult, because quite frankly, there aren't many of them around. That's not to say that it's impossible, and I meet lots of lovely, lovely human beings, but I just, I realised that as I was dating, I could almost feel my standards slipping again for the sake of men. And I was just like, oh dear, no. I did this before. I ain't doing this again. And I had to catch myself and be like, nope, this person is actually like negatively affecting you. I'm referring to one person in particular when I'm talking about this. It was a guy that I dated more than anyone else. He was the most recent one. And he exhausted me. He got so much out of me. So I just kind of cut them all off. And I feel so much better for it. None of them brought nearly as much into my life as I brought into theirs. And I'm sorry if that sounds arrogant, but it's the flipping truth. All right. In good news, I did go on my first date with a girl. I actually went on this dating show. It's just like for YouTube, like social media dating show. It hasn't been published yet. But I ended up going on a date with a girl. She was beautiful, absolutely stunning. I mean, she works currently at Radio 1, One Extra, Asian Network as I think, assistant producer, I want to say. And I used to work at all of those places in radio as well. Like, she DJs, which is really cool. And we have mutual friends, which is really nice and fun. We got on really well. And I'll be honest, dating a girl felt so ridiculously natural to me. It just felt like, I don't know, there was nothing that felt weird about it. It just, I don't know. I was just like, yeah, this is like nice. This is, I don't know how to explain it. And it's the same as, I got with a girl at one of these queer events, I guess like a couple of months ago now. And that felt completely, entirely natural. And so I'm excited about like kind of my baby steps into this queerness that I have. The more I kind of think about it, the more it's just like I don't restrict who I can find attractive based on the shell that they're in. Like, do you know, I was even thinking, I have this new neighbour, right? And both of them, like it's a man and a woman, they're both absolutely stunning. But there's literally nothing in me that fancies them because I don't know who they are. Do you see what I mean? Like, very occasionally I'll see the shell of a person and be like, God, they're beautiful. But it's usually because they've got a bit of like a difference about them. You know what I mean? They might have some amazing tattoos or like they've put their hair up in a really cool way, or they just carry themselves. It's not so much the shell, it's also like the vibes that person is giving off that I'm like, oh, I like that. And I'm just kind of very open with the fact that I think I have the capacity to love literally anyone. And that's fun. That's nice. I'm enjoying figuring that out. But also I am in absolutely zero rush to be in a relationship. To be honest, I would actively avoid a relationship at this point in time. I've got things to do. Like, I'm protecting my peace. I love my own company. I love my friends. I love my life. And I have got shit to do. I've got to find a way to afford this flat, guys. So that's kind of where I'm at with dating. I did literally think this morning, like, oh my God, it's been a year and a half since I've been single. That's kind of crazy. And it's like, actually, that's no time at all. I was in a relationship pretty much all my 20s. A year and a half is no time at all. I can take my time. I just know that at some point when I start saying that to people, people are going to be like, oh, that's a long time. And I'm just going to have to be like, no, it's not, actually. No, it's flipping not. I'm so good. I am good. I think actually perhaps in a similar kind of vein to this, I'm going to talk to you about something that I discussed in depth with my therapist this week. And it's the issue of children, having children. And since I've been feeling quite poorly, I've been watching lots of old movies. And I think because I've enjoyed the escapism of it, you know, you can immerse yourself in a very different time with different actors, different faces. And my favorite thing to do, of course, is kind of Google these actors and see how the rest of their life turned out. Like, I'm watching them on screen and they're 29, but I can fast forward their life story. Most of them are fucking dead now that I've been watching, and I can see how they live their life. And I've just been finding it fascinating, and I've been thinking a lot about, like, okay, when, say if I was to fast forward my life, what would I want my story, my final story to be? And I think it's obviously really difficult when you're looking up these past women, especially. They all have kids, and that's part of their story. And the only fear that I have in not having kids is I am not lucky enough to have a family either. I mean, look, biologically, I have a family, of course, but emotionally, you know, I don't speak to really any of my siblings. One of them, no contact at all. Two of them, I don't know, I speak to maybe like a couple of times a year. Um, and I don't speak to my father at all. And my mum and I have what I describe as kind of like almost like a aunt niece relationship. Like, she's my mum, but we do not communicate enough to kind of, I don't know, there's no normal, is there? But like, we don't communicate that much at all either. You know, I'm very much a free agent, and I've spent my entire life being really, really sad about that. However, now it's fine because I have gorgeous friends, and I'm using all my emotional energy on people who, you know, love me back in a healthy way. So that's fine. However, I'm kind of concerned that, like, okay, if I don't have any family now and I'm not planning on creating a family, where will that leave me? Do you know what I mean? I'm kind of, I do not want to get into the narrative of, like, you know, every time I say to my grandma and my mum that I don't want kids, they're like, oh, who will look after you when you're old? It's not that I'm looking for someone to look after me when I'm old. It's more, will I still have enough of a community around me in every stage of my life if I choose not to have children? This isn't a case of me trying to almost convince myself to have children, though I think in that situation it's possibly easier to have a community if you have children. But it's more like, do I need to figure out some sort of, like, dig deep and get a maternal instinct in me in order to feel as fulfilled as possible? I'm just aware of how fleeting life is, and I don't know, I get quite bogged down with this feeling that I'm always going to be alone, which is quite I feel like being alone is like a loaded thing to say. I mean, look, we're born alone, we die alone, right? And I don't feel lonely, but it's me. And I think in terms of love will come and go for me. I think you know, people are very, very lucky if they find someone that lasts in every era of their life. I personally think it's quite unrealistic. But as my therapist was saying to me, she was like, you will build communities elsewhere. You know, she was like, I think you're going to make meaningful art, by art, you know, kind of documentaries, films. And she was like, that will build communities. She said, I think you will probably have children in your life in some capacity. She said, you'll probably do some charity work, or even set up your own charity. And, you know, she was kind of painting a picture of a life with a community without having biological children. And it kind of opened my eyes that a community is not biological. I mean, Christ, I should fuck it, of all people, I should know that. However, I was just concerned and I was scared, and I'm just so aware that life is so short, because I've just watched hours and hours of people looking young and beautiful on my TV screens, and now they're all dead. And these films weren't made, you know, centuries ago. Anyway, I do apologise for the kind of like ramble. But this is literally so reflective of how my therapy sessions go. There is no fucking rhyme or reason to the shit that I bring up. It's just the way the brain works. And I'm trying to be more, let it flow like that with this podcast, because, you know, for some of the episodes that I've done before, I really overthink what I say, and I then sometimes re-say what I've already said. I'm just going to speak from my brain and hope that people follow along. I don't know. Thank you so much for listening. If you've got this far, you're a fucking angel. Love you, etc. Next week, who the fuck knows what we'll be talking about? Whatever pisses me off or whatever enlightens me during the week. I hope you have a gorgeous week next week. I love you. Let's ramble next time.